Good morning, YouTube. So I was not going to put relaxing music on this one, but at first I was going to, then I got the message, and then I said, we gotta put something on this video here, okay? Because we gotta put something on this video here. Today is Sunday. Today is Raw Day. Today is the day, you know, Sundays are important to Christians, but Sundays are important in general because Sunday is the day of my father, the sun god, Ra. And I think what happens, especially with religion, is that religion formalizes spiritual belief because a spiritual journey is a personal journey. It's a self-directed journey, but what happens is religion formalizes it. And so sometimes we lose a lot of things as things become watered down, filtered through. And so we lose a lot of, you know, and then things change. They change when they go from one city to another, one culture to another. I find all of it to be the same. Like when people explain to me, I had somebody was explaining to me at some point Chinese god and the earth god and then the sun god and the this god, and it sounds all like the same thing to me. It just sounds like we've adapted it to what is comfortable for us. And I'm not saying all of it is the same. I definitely know that people twist and turn and they make things sound the way they want to. But I also know that I think if we are honest, when we are being honest and people come with messages that are the truth, things that they've seen, things that they've experienced, so not something they've read in a book, something that has come to them, we come to the conclusion always that no matter if our gods look like us, like some people will say God is black, and to other people they'll say, well, God is Greek, or God is, you know, the Chinese will say God is Chinese and the Indian gods look Indian. There is no race to God. Spirits don't have a race. We here that come back all the time to reincarnate, we have been every race. We've been Asian, we've been black, we've been white, we've been whatever, you know, you can think of. So, but the message at the core, at the heart of it is the same. Give me 5 seconds. I actually have something I forgot to do. Those amongst us who don't believe in God, who have never met God, who don't see things beyond the veil, in a sense, I think you're lucky. I do. Even though you would think that you would want to know for sure, because in your ignorance, there is a lot that you don't know, because knowledge can be a burden. Knowing things can weigh down on you. And, you know, I, in my life, have avoided leadership roles at every turn because it's just easier for me to just manage myself, think about just myself, and maneuver that way, very light. If even with friendships, family alliances, just not having many alliances is just easier because you know what? When I see storms coming, if the people closest to me, I say, hey, a storm's coming and they don't listen, I just move around. I might just bolt up my doors, my windows, secure everything, and get in my vehicle and leave, metaphorically. and head for the airport, head for the next town over, weather out the storm, come back home, check the damage, and continue, because I don't have the burden of watching people suffer the consequences of not listening. Watching people suffer the consequences of not listening, not taking God seriously is it's an easier way to live. Because when you know for a fact that people are going to suffer, and you can see God's patience, you can see it, you start feeling in your system and in your energy that God is being patient, so you start begging people. You literally use the words, I am begging you. And sometimes people, in an effort to look strong or to look like they've defeated you, or they'll say, oh look, this person is begging now. But they don't know what you feel. They don't know what you see. Because spirit is not like human beings. Spirit is not like us. We can beg. We plead. Let me explain to you. If you are, let's say you're going to the passport office for a passport, and you have to deal with a human being, and there's an error in your application, you can beg and plead them to reconsider the error. Please look it over, and please, give you an opportunity to fix it. Can you just give me a new one? I'll just go outside, I'll refill it, I'll come back. When you're dealing with spirits, depending on the spirit you're dealing with, depending on your situation, depending on how many opportunities you've been given, spirit is almost like a computer, where when you go do it with the computer realizes that the requirements, whatever information it needs, is not there. And so it's just going to refuse the application no matter what. So you can't negotiate with the computer. You just have to accept that this application is getting refused. This application is revoked. So sometimes when we deal with spirit, we're not understanding that we have to take it seriously while we have the opportunity to take it seriously. So people like myself are put in place as a messenger, as a mouthpiece, as a voice, to give voice where spirit knows that people cannot hear. Because we as people can reach spirit, but we block ourselves from spirit, is what I've realized. We block ourselves in multiple ways. First, with our belief or lack thereof. The minute you say you don't believe in something, you've completely blocked yourself energetically from it, because how can you get to something that doesn't exist in your mind? We block spirit out with the way we behave. Unrepentant behavior. It's not because God expects you to be perfect. We make mistakes. It's because you don't repent. It's because you don't go back and say, I just thought about this. Because sometimes you don't get it right away. And God knows that you're in ignorance. You don't get it. And sometimes you sit back and you think about it and you're like, you know what? I'm wrong. I'm wrong in this instant. And I could do better. And now that I've realized the massive mistake I've made, let me, with my whole heart, my authentic heart, go back and beg God. Plead with God that I'm sorry, that I just literally did not know. Or perhaps maybe I knew, but I was just so drunk with power, or drunk with, pride, or whatever it was. Anger. I was so angry. I was embarrassed. I felt like I had to do something. I was scared. Whatever it was that blocked you, you have to go back and you have to repent. You have to manage that relationship. And when God puts messengers in place, people block God's messengers. I don't understand the rationale behind it myself personally. I don't understand why. It's the message. I guess maybe because people cannot reach God directly, so they figure they're going to punch at the messenger, and then that will get back at God. And I tell you, it makes it worse. If you were supposed to carry one stone, God is going to bury you in stones now, because a messenger has a role beyond just the message they're giving today, beyond just the task they're on today. You know, people have different people they have to give messages to. Sometimes you have to give messages to people who are under God's judgment. Other times it's people who needs God's attention. Other times it's people who are about to make a fatal mistake. Other times it's people who need healing. Other times it's people who, without you being in place to talk to them, things would not work out in their favor. And if it doesn't work out in their favor, it doesn't work out in God's favor. So when you become a hindrance to God's work, you place yourself as a stumbling block in God's path. And believe me, of all the paths you want to be a stumbling block or a blockage, this is not the one. This is not the one. Many a king has gone through in history, many defying God. This is how empires fall. This is how kingdoms fall. So the messenger can only come and plead and beg. Where God did not ask you to do this as a messenger, you do it anyway because you know how this is gonna go. You know, God sends the Holy Spirit first, our mother. He sends her first because she utilizes reason. She brings peace. She warns people. She says, please listen. Do as you're told. Please. She comes and she's long suffering, so she comes way before she needs to come. She'll come years early to prepare you. My mother warns us how to behave, how to act. She is slow to anger. In fact, I have never seen her angry. She has had much reason to be angry. She has unhuman patience and self-control. I don't understand it. Long suffering. She will sit in situations that are meant to piss people off and she will say nothing. She will not react. I don't know how she does it. And I mean over extended periods of time. And that is just in the time that I've seen, that I've gotten to witness. And I try to model my behavior after her. It's huge shoes to fill. Huge shoes to fill. I'm trying to do what has taken probably millions of years to master, because this is not normal. And she's always pushing me to behave in the same way. So she comes as an ambassador. She comes as a diplomat. She comes to bring reason to two feuding sides, to bring them to the table, to get them to find compromise. And she begs us. And when we don't understand the first time, she's patient. And when we don't understand, she'll come back again and again and again. And she's reasonable and she will sacrifice herself. No ego, very humble. She's the God. We're the people. She begs us, please listen, trust me. And I've taken a lot of example off of her without her having to give the instruction. It's like, I see why she gets things done. But when she has done her last and there is no reasoning, she steps aside. She has no choice. She has no more hands to play, because she comes and she massages our free will. Our free will, our ability to on our own say, I understand, I see reason, I understand that the course of action that I'm taking is not in my best interest, and I'm going to relent, I'm going to let it go. This is the way that Spirit wants to work with you. This is what Spirit prefers. Even, for example, if we have important roles that we have to play for Spirit, these roles require two-way trust, compassion, love, loyalty. I say to Spirit, listen, You're literally going to get more traction from me than literally just asking me for a favor and saying, we just need you to do it. Because some of these things are so hard to do that if you tell me you're going to be rewarded for doing it, I'm going to tell you, I don't want this reward. I'm just telling. Some of these jobs, this is not easy to do. You want to be a messenger for God because you don't know what it takes. It is not easy in any couple. There's no part of it that you can say yay. The only amazing part of it is that you get to be in God's presence. That is the compensation. There is no money that is worth the job itself. I mean, no, that's not true. Maybe some people, luxurious living and stuff might coax them, but for me, the prize is knowing that I am assisting spirit on things that are very important. The prize is knowing that I'm helping people. The prize is knowing that I'm releasing people from something that they could not, or I'm assisting in the release of chains over people's lives. We often sit back and we think about, I'll give an example, Palestine. Why doesn't God help the people in Palestine? Why doesn't God help people who are oppressed, people in the Middle East? Like, where is God in all of this? And so, I've been saying that's my whole life. How can God allow these bad things to happen? And then it was like, well, here's the day that God needs to cure these bad things that are happening, and you need to take an instrumental role in curing the things that are going bad. You need to take an instrumental role in doing your part, because remember, you always said, how comes nobody's coming to help? We need you to help. And so this is my role as a messenger, is that I have to do what I'm told. What you are told to do by God is not easy to do because of the places you have to go in order to get it done. It's like missionary work in a war zone. You have to go in places that people are running from in order to do your work. So I definitely know that part of it is God does choose people who maybe have less fear. People who are more in love with God than things like, they won't look at the fact that, they're blocked on a 3D level in real life. They'll block their path. They'll be persecuted. They will be shunned. They will be laughed at. You have to have a strong stomach that you got to tell the truth. And the truth is going to make people laugh at you. They're going to say, what are you talking about? The truth is stuff that people don't know. It is so rare to meet other people that know the truth of who God is. It is so rare to meet other people that know the truth that it cannot be, people can't fake knowing the truth. When people know the truth, you know when angels are talking to people. You know when God is communicating with people, giving people messages, because these messages are the truth. Even if you heard somebody else say it and you regurgitate it, it's not the same as when people know the truth. Because angels have a way of speaking, so you understand when they're speaking that they're speaking the truth. This didn't come from them. When someone's a messenger, you don't even know the significance of what you're saying. You don't even know who you're talking to. The person you're talking to will know that you are talking to them, and you don't know that God is speaking directly through your mouth to someone. You don't know God is speaking words that are significant to someone. You just think to yourself, why did I say that? Sometimes you get a little bit nervous to say something, like you want to hold the words back that God is saying. And sometimes you hold God back from delivering a message because you're like, this person's going to think I'm crazy. Where is this coming from? So you have to understand that these jobs are not, this is not for the weak. This is not easy work to do. I listen to a lot of preaching almost every day, almost all day. And most of the day, if I break from it, I break from it temporarily. And I have come to admire people who preach, because everybody talks about everybody has been under spiritual attack by witches. Everybody has had some sort of persecution. Everybody has had a trial on their path to talking about God. Why do they hate messengers so much? Because messengers save people, because messengers open people's eyes, and because messengers tell people things that they don't want to hear, things that they already know in their gut, that they already feel. Because I'll tell you, there's no way you're doing evil and there's not a thought in the back of your mind, even if it comes one time per year. In the back of your mind, one day before you go to sleep, there's a thought that says, I'm gonna pay for this. There's gonna be a day I pay for it. And it's so scary that you push it back to the back of your mind and you say, nah, it's not gonna happen, it's not gonna happen. And some people, what they do is they try to make all these plans and put all of these things in place so that that day never comes, that they're going to pay for their actions, because they know what they've done. They know the evil that they've done. They know the pain that they've put on people. Now, beyond that, it's bad enough when people use their physical hands and their mind to do evil things, and they're thinking to themselves, I'm going to pay karma. But when people know that they're using energy to do evil things, when you know you're using energy, you know for a fact it's coming back. You just don't know when, you don't know how, but you know for a fact. There is no witch out there that's done evil things, that's broken people down, that doesn't think it's not going to come back. I don't care how confident they are. They say a lot of dumb things in confidence. Oh, if you don't get, you're not going to get karma. The only way you're going to get karma is if you didn't do it correctly. They know they're going to get karma. They know they're delaying karma. If they don't know, if they, come on now. Come on now. There is no good witch doctor or warlock who's never faced one backfire in many years. Not one. As you progress in these kinds of practices, you will face backfires. You will feel your work. You're not going into this work with guidance. You're being your own God. When you're doing dark magic, the left-hand path is to be your own God. That's how they advertise it. That's how they bring you in. You don't have to listen to God and all these restrictions. Do it yourself. Take care of yourself. So you go into somewhere, the most dangerous place to exist is the spirit realm, and you go by yourself. And as you keep doing things and your intuition, your ancestors and your spirit guides keep telling you no, 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 and you override it and you do it anyway, you lose them, you lose their protection, and now you're out here in a no man's land. You're going to face backfires. You have no protection. So they know that karma exists. The same person who I heard, and I've heard multiple people say this, that there's no karma, multiple, out of the mouth of the same one that said there's no such thing as karma. If you get karma, so you didn't do it right. I've listened to many videos of this individual also talking about how it feels like when they've gotten their backfires. How does it feel like to be under a love spell? How does it feel like to be under this and under that? Their work is shoddy. Shoddy workmanship means workmanship that is not accurate. It means that you give someone a placebo of what they paid for, and then you bully them into wanting to accept the results even though that's not what they wanted. I'll give you an example. They use a lot of misleading terms, like for example, they use love spell, but love spell has nothing to do with love. Love is the frequency of God. You cannot create love out of falsehood and out of manipulation. It's a domination spell. That's really what it is. So they get these spirits, they pay these spirits to go and get somebody, beat the person down, and they say to you, if you're doing a love spell the way that I do it, this person might come back as a zombie. They're not themselves, they don't think for themselves, they look demented, the spirit just had to get them back. This person might come back and spirit had to beat them so bad, they lost an arm, they lost a leg, they lost a limb, but you know, at least they came back. What normal person would want somebody back as a shell of themselves, like a zombie? You're laying next to a zombie, and they say these people become so hateful of you, so violent, they might beat you in the house, they might do certain things to you because A part of them knows what you did. A part of them knows they don't want to be there, but they're being forced to be there. Something is energetically holding them in place with you. Of course, they're going to beat on you. Of course, they're going to want nothing to do with you. Of course, there's going to be no intimacy. So somebody comes back, they don't want to sleep in the same room. They don't want to touch you. They don't want to have conversation with you. And you have to settle for, oh, they put their hand on my leg the other day. Oh, but they sleep out every night. Oh, but they have another woman outside. But they put their hand on, they're not interested in me. It's done. But you forced it. You dominated it. You forced their hand. This is the kind of thing that people do. These are what men do. So when you have, men and women, when you have situations where people use this manipulation, and even God does not use manipulation like this. God comes and God is upfront, honest. Doesn't want to hurt you, doesn't want to push you. You know, sometimes what they'll do, they just won't answer the question. They'll just be quiet. They'll hesitate. They're wondering, should they tell you? How are you going to react? And at that point, for me personally, I just say, listen, I don't have the heart to hear whatever the answer is right now. Anyway, that made you hesitate, just keep it. We'll talk about it later. Even God does not manipulate. God does not force your hand or your free will. God comes to negotiate, find compromise, make you see a reason, say to you, please, do you see what you're doing? Do you see what you're causing? And they give you a long, long time to make a decision, because when God decides, God is like dealing with the computer. It's like dealing, you know, the computer at the airport, it doesn't want to scan. It doesn't want to do this, and it doesn't want to do that, or else you're going to have to get into the long line with everybody else. Like, you can't negotiate with the computer. You can only try to retry and retry and retry, but the computer is going to deny. So by the time you get to the point where God has said, well, it's enough. First we sent the Holy Spirit and you didn't listen. Then I sent a messenger and you still didn't listen. We're going to send the judgment that you had deserved anyway. So imagine if you always knew in the back of your mind that this thing was going to come back to haunt you. And instead of God sending that firestorm right away, God sent in an ambassador, a diplomat, then messengers. And then outside of all of that, you still didn't listen, having had an opportunity to make a change. How do you then go and negotiate after the fact that you have spit in the face of every messenger and negotiator that has come your way? Because God gives us signs first. Trust me. I am so quick when they tell me. It doesn't take a day of disobedience. I am quick when they tell me, reconsider. Don't do it this way. Try to do it this way. I know it's hard. They massage you. I know it's hard. I know you don't want to. I know it's difficult. It's going to stretch you. It's going to be tough. Try this way. This is the way you must do it. And I have to take my energy, instead of using it to fight, to see things their way. Because trust me, I've learned their way is the best way. I've learned every time now that I think I might have it together, I could do it my way, I'm just like, no, I've been burned and I'm not willing to be burned again. Because the burns are not the same degrees. Every time you get burned worse than the last time. You're like, the last time almost took me out and I get burned again, and I can't imagine it being any worse than it is right now. This is unbearable. It's a big mistake. God puts you through things to let you learn, don't do it again. So it must burn for you to learn not to do it again. Otherwise, if you got out of it, you'd think, nah, I could do it again. I'll get out of it. Oh, I endured it last time. It will be so bad that you will abandon spirituality forever. You will say, I will never touch anything ever again. I'm telling you, I'm using spirituality as an example because there are people here who use black magic, who use baneful magic, and they hurt people, they destroy people, and they do it of their own free will, of their own judgment, without any supervision, any protection, any connection to spirit. They just do whatever they want, playing judge and jury and executioner. And one of the things for me is I'm so happy I don't have to do that because I don't know. I don't have enough information. I'm so happy I don't have to be responsible for that. I literally don't know. And there's such a horrible feeling in thinking someone was the one doing something and the whole time they were innocent. I don't want to, like, it's like, look, I do what I'm told, and I want to be an employee. Because being an employee is 1,000% easier than being a leader. Leadership, just yesterday I heard this preacher say the burdens of leadership. And it's a burden, I'm telling you, it's something to carry. It's a lot of responsibility. So that is what my live is about today, is about leadership. But first, I gotta read in God's words. This is a longer chapter. And I know now, when God gives the word, they are very specific. They chose it for a reason. They're very specific with their words. They're not like us. It's not just like, you got to take the words very specifically. Sometimes when I see the significance of the words, I get nervous because I'm like, I can only after reading it, I can kind of tell where this is either going or where this has gone or what's been set in motion energetically. If you can see energy, or if you can see in the 5D a condition of a person, of a group of people, you will see what you see up there is not matching your eyes of what you see here. Up there you see something. Up there you might see a city on fire. But here, they're still partying, they're still dancing, they still have everything, things are going great. And you saw it last year or the year before or months before. And when you don't know and you're new, you think, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. Maybe what I saw wasn't right. And then you start seeing what happened over there starts happening here. And you start making the connection with how it happens here, up there, and how it manifests over here. And you stop worrying about timing. You stop worrying about what you see with your eyes. You start realizing the reality of life is that it happens up there first. And what may seem like people have time, the clock is running down. And this is the reason why negotiation is impossible. It's because it's been up there so long. It's happened so long ago. Your time of negotiation was a year ago. By the time it gets here, it's already done up there. Even if it got solved up there, you're not going to see results for a long time. You're going to pay this, you're going to play this out. This is going to play out. There is a time difference between what happens up there and what happens here. So Spirit comes to celebrate things with you that are not even anywhere near going to happen here yet. Spirit will say it's a time of rejoicing, it's a time of celebration. This will happen, that will happen. It will be Christmas up there and it's March over here. And they're already talking about Christmas, what's going to happen in Christmas in February and in March. We just passed the old Christmas in here, but they're talking about the Christmas coming up. That's to show you that by the time you see the smoke here, by the time you see the fire, if it took 2 years for this to come down, 3 years of begging for this to come down, you will sit in this fire for 3 years before mercy is possible. Even if they grant you mercy up there before it's possible, you will sit through it. So as a messenger, I feel the need to explain to people how this works so that you can understand. Because with understanding, you can plan, you can see things as they are. So the word today is Jeremiah 51, the whole chapter. Spirit said the whole chapter. Don't cut it off. Gotta read to the last word. Jeremiah 51. Above it, you'll see, above every book or chapter, there will be kind of like words that give what it's about right above here. So this one says, a destroying wind, and deliver your soul from God's anger. I know when I'm getting these messages, you see, because Father is here. The ambassador's work is done. The diplomat has no more moves that she can make. And when she's gone, he comes and he dictates the messages. He gives the messages. If you were in spirit and you would see for yourself, you would be a little bit more concerned about your situation, that you can only see the reality today. You cannot see in spirit what's happening. I want to tell you guys, we had been in spiritual court for weeks in the spring. Whenever I go in the spirit, I'm no longer at a throne, I'm in court. They've been trying people's situations in spiritual court. At the time that I was going through spiritual court, what was happening was that I was under persecution day and night, all night long and all day long. I was getting spell work. It was hot and it was abusive. Every form of attack they were using on me, I had to do a lot of cleansing work. Demonic attack, spiritual attack, in the dreams, giving me things to eat. All kinds of things were happening to me at that time, night and day. And my mother took on a different form. She was no longer in white, she was no longer in red, she was in black. She was sitting where a judge would sit. And I was just in court. And she said to me, don't touch anything, don't make a move, don't do anything, don't react. Simply clean the work, cleanse your space, and just let it be. And every time I went into the court, it was a courtroom. I mean, there was like brown, dark wood and all of that. And I knew that people were under spiritual judgment. They were in spiritual court, and that was the worst possible time for them to do that. They should have done that before or after. They didn't know they were in spiritual court energetically. And so spirit was taking account of everything. I mean, these attacks went weeks. And it wasn't just attacks, it was my car being put in accidents, people ramming into me on the highway, people persecuting me aggressively, following me everywhere, people following me and my kids to school, all kinds of things, teachers getting teachers and principals involved. Oh my gosh. Persecution. People following me to my door, trying to follow me to my door when I go home every day. Whatever it is they could have done, they did. And I'm telling you, when I used to come and give messages in the spring, I was physically and spiritually exhausted. My soul was weak because of constant fighting. They were trying to get the car to crash. Whatever it is that they could do, I had not a moment of peace to myself spiritually, not a moment of peace. And I spent all that time fighting to get on camera every day. I spent all that time going through hurdles. I spent all that time teaching people how to endure a spiritual battle that is draining you, how to endure and keep moving every day, do what God tells you to do. And when I was done on camera, I still had my work to do. I had to wake up early. They were fighting me to work out. They were fighting me to pray, fighting me to meditate. My God, what were they not fighting? Things that wasn't even necessary to fight. Things that had nothing to do with what was going on. It was and has been a season of persecution unlike any other thing I've seen in my life. It has just been things that I would not be able to write a real story. I'd have to put it in a cartoon. I was talking to God the other day and I said, you're the one that does all the media. You're the one that writes all the stories, that you give people the songs, you give them the cartoons, you give them, I'm like, all of it's true. And Spirit's like, if you had to tell your story, could you tell it as a normal movie? I said, no, 100%. I have to make it a cartoon. And she said, exactly. We can't tell people like a real story, like this really happened. People are going to think people are crazy. We got to put it in a cartoon, in a song. We got to put it in a metaphor. Spirit inspires everything. The first time I knew that Spirit inspired something was when I heard this one song and I couldn't stop playing it. And I kept saying, you were in the booth with him when he made this. And she confirmed, she's like, yeah, I was. And I felt like she made that song for me. I know she made it, she didn't make it just for me. That song is his biggest song, this artist is his biggest song. That song is the opening song to his abundance. That man he comes from Nigeria, and you know what he said? He said the gatekeepers always hold him back. They always stand in his way. They don't want to see him win. Because even though he doesn't know God gave him the song, somebody somewhere knows that God gave that song. They can't stop that song from blowing up. I always look at how many views on the song. This is 4 million. I'm like, I put 2 million of those views on there. I put a significant number anytime that there's some music that's my song. I play it all day long, all day, all night. He's gonna get plays from the song because the song touches your heart. The song, it speaks to you, and it doesn't speak to you in an obvious way. It's not like a church song that is very overt. It just speaks to you. It says something. This guy, when he performs the song in person, it doesn't sound like the studio version. She was with him in the booth when he made the song. The song is like, it has something on it. There's a supernatural quality to that song. Now, you know, these darker forces, what they do is they take everything that God does, every way that God does it, and they try to do it in the reverse. So they also try to speak to people through music. Like, there are some songs I cannot stand naturally. It's repulsive to me. I don't want to hear it. Like that song by Tinashe, Nasty Girl, I cannot stand it. I hate that song. Every time it comes on, I just have to get rid of it. It's not even like, it's just catchy and it's not even good. It's just catchy, just keeps playing and it's nasty. It's a nasty song to me. It's my opinion. But they use the music to like speak to people, to invoke different parts of people. So God puts messages everywhere. Messenger is not just someone that, like myself, that comes verbatim and says it verbatim. If you get a messenger like myself verbatim saying, your case is different. Your case is different. You have a special case. If you have someone who literally they installed in place to speak to you, see, the channel is disabled. It's not for everybody. It's for whoever it's for to get the message. It's not for everybody to find the message. That's why I stopped worrying about increasing the traffic on my messages. Because I'm like, God wants this to be specific. This is the mode of communication. I trust in God now. I trust in God's way. I trust it so much more because I've seen God in action. So sometimes people who persecute me, I take a lot of mercy on them. I have a lot of patience with them no matter what they've done, because I'm like, look, when this comes, it's going to be violent. And I don't necessarily always mean violent in the sense of like physical violence. I mean, it's going to feel like violence on your spirit. It's going to be a violent one, because this kind of talking that you're making them talk, when God starts getting impatient, we're scared. I have to send my mother first to give a message. Before I go, I'm like, can you please go ahead of me and go tell him? Get him ready and tell me when it's safe to come. And sometimes they tell me come. I might lose my cool and they'll say it's time to come. Okay, it's time to come up, let's talk. And I'm nervous to come up because I'm like, I don't have good news. I don't have the news that you guys want to hear. They know that already, but I still have to go and have a conversation about it. And I'm thinking to myself, why do these people keep putting me at odds when I have to go up there and I have to go talk? Please somebody listen. Let me have something positive to say. Because when I have something positive to say, it changes the mood. They live inside of me, so it changes the mood even in my my vibration. I'm in a good mood. I feel good. Peace has been restored. It gives release, and it releases him from having to make a decision. He will make the decision. He already knows the decisions he's going to make. He already knows how. I beg people, just please listen. I know that you have blockages on what you have to do. God knows it too. And God wants you to just trust. Sometimes the only thing you have to do is wait. You don't have to make a move, but you can have your willing heart, your obedient heart, and you wait. People are going to think you're crazy for the decision that you're making, because they're going to say, why don't you just let this go and just do what these people want you to do? Because I'm scared of God. I'm not scared of these people. These are human beings. You don't understand. You must see it for yourself. If only I could show everybody what it looks like to be under God's judgment when it starts in the spirit. If you could see the visions, you would understand that whatever God tells you to do, if God says, don't go back over there, trust me, ghost them, stop taking, do not go, because you just don't see. You just don't see how it's coming. You will live to regret it. You notice they don't say you will die. They say you will live to regret it. The energy of death. We fear so much. We fear a physical death. But death doesn't come here to take your body. She does not come here to take the breath out of your body and collect your bones. That happens on its own time when it's supposed to. If you are supposed to die at this age, at this time, you die at this age, at this time. You would live for your punishment. You would live for it. Death puts a death to what you have. It puts a death to the life that you have. Death gets you ready for the next cycle. The next cycle coming in depends on the decisions you made in the last cycle, because God does not take your free will. You think just because God is strong that God will come and bully you, and God will not do that. God will simply beg you to please see things their way. So you come, or they come, they ask you, please do not do this, etc. And so what happens is death is here with us all the time. We just don't know it. Just because I've started talking about it, my mother this, my mother that, they think death has arrived. Death is always here. Who do you think ushers people into new cycles? The cycle of death and rebirth, these energies are here all the time, perpetually. They never leave. Mother never, she leaves the throne all the time. She's always here. It's Father who never leaves the throne. Actually, he does every once in a while. When he does, it's not a good thing. It's not. It's the last thing you want, is that he has to get up and leave for whatever reason. But the energy of death is always with us. We always have to close out a chapter. So when death comes, she closes out the chapter. And the way she closes out the chapter depends on you. She may have to do it quickly. She may have to do it in a certain way. She's very particular. She's very meticulous with her work. Very meticulous. But she gives you the kind of ending that is consistent with the way you behave, that is consistent with your actions. That's why we tend to call her karma. They exist as a trinity: death, time, and karma. So she delivers to you your energy. Your energy closes your cycle. How do you behave? Are you a bully? Are you harsh with people? Are you compassionate? Are you merciful? How do you behave? So she comes to put an end to things, good things and bad things. But everything has a cycle, and everything and everybody starts new cycles. Now the new cycle you start, it depends on the decisions of the old cycle. So if in the old cycle you refuse to listen, heed their words and their warning, the new cycle starts up more vicious than the last. If you were not able to get sleep in your last cycle, your new cycle brings something worse than just worry keeping you up. If you brought persecution to others in your last cycle, your new cycle will bring persecution to you. If you brought blockages to others in your last cycle, your new cycle brings double, triple, 10 times the blockages to you. It deals you the same hand that you dealt. So it's not just about other people. It could be anything. It could be, it's like whatever you are experiencing, it's a manifestation of decisions that you've made. So if you are so gracious, if you've been the recipient of such grace, that Spirit has come and said, please, please stop, please listen, please do things this way. Whatever it takes to force yourself to listen, force yourself. When I was going through my gang stalking and I was holding on, there was a certain period I came to when I finally made it to the threshold. By the way, sometimes we think when Spirit puts us to sit down in the house and we don't have nowhere to go and nothing to do and clears our plate, that that's punishment. It means we hit rock bottom. No, it means you graduated successfully. It means you've made it, well, maybe not successfully, but you've graduated something. That's your time to now heal. After war comes healing. So that's your time to sit down. All the lessons you've learned, they need to integrate inside of you. You need to now be able to sit down and have a moment to say, oh, that happened because of this happened because of that. How do I put this in practice in my life? How do I integrate this lesson so everything that I went through becomes a part of me and I never repeat this again? All kinds of lessons come to you. Well, did I pick the wrong crowd? Did I pick the wrong friends? Did I not listen? Did I not trust my intuition? What did I do here to get here? Why is it so bad? So Spirit puts you to sit down. You gotta listen. Spirit starts talking to you. Spirit will talk to you any way Spirit can talk to you. You think you just have to be psychic or anything. No, Spirit talks to all of us. It could be intuition. It could be ads that come up on your phone. It could, which by the way, they use that as a manipulation of your actions as well. So be wary of that. Spirit will use a message on a bottle. Spirit will use a song that comes into your head. Whatever it takes, your own voice, your intuition, your own mind to talk to you. You know, I have a standard thing that I say. If I'm thinking it and I considered it, then I gotta do it. And that's my way of making a decision. If I thought it, if I considered it, then I gotta do it. So my intuition, I take it seriously. You can have a spiritual gift, but you need to exercise it in order for it to be strong, no matter what it is. And no matter, you need to exercise it, sorry, you need to put it into use. So you have an intuition, you gotta also exercise it. And we all do, you gotta put it into use. Be careful. Listen to the Spirit. I beg you. Please, people here don't listen. As I used to, when I was going through things, when I got to that point where I was sitting down, Spirit said, it's a good thing that you refused this and you held on and you listened, because this would have been very bad for you. This would have been the worst thing that ever happened to you. So it's a good thing that you listen to us. And you gotta listen to Spirit when it's rough. You gotta listen to Spirit where you're paying the consequences. People might not know why you're acting like that, why you're behaving like that. If they had to spend 24 hours in your home, they would understand. They think they're the biggest threat that you have, and you have other threats in the spirit that are bigger than them, because you carry the energy of God, of Spirit. It has enemies, not just as powerful, but very powerful as well. So you gotta people think the messengers come here because they feel like this is a great way to spend their time. No, we've just learned obedience. We've learned to listen. We've learned to want what God wants for us, because it is the best thing. Once you experience what God wants for you and you stop doubting, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And sometimes it's not amazing in the moment. Sometimes in the moment, it looks like a huge mistake, but you must listen. So anyway, I say all that to say, before I get into this is going to be a longer chapter. This is going to be a longer chapter, but I have to read My phone has been on mute the entire time. I cannot believe it. I don't know how long this video has been on mute. It's been 82 minutes. I'm gonna finish it and I'm gonna have to redo this. I don't know how long this has been on mute. That concerns me. I'm just gonna finish where I was. I might have to do this. I might have to listen to this again. At the core, leadership takes thinking for others. Leadership requires thinking for other people, so it is a weight. We have a weight on our shoulders of leadership where we have to consider how our decisions are going to affect other people, especially when you are called into that position. I know there are people here that are scared of the messages that I'm going to give. They're worried. They're concerned. I want to say I understand your concern. You think I don't, but I do. I do. I deeply understand it, and I feel your concern. Like, I feel it literally. I feel it. We have to follow God's command. This is the job. We do not have a choice. Trust me. You gotta let it play out the way it's playing out. God wouldn't put you in this position. God wants people to hear things. God wants people to know things. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. If I tried not to give this message and I said I'm not giving it today, and I went along my day, I will not be able to do the day until I will have to come back here and give the message. If I decide to, if I can make it through the night, if I can make it through the night, I will give it in the morning, one way or the other. I gotta pray every day. I can't make it into the prayer. And why didn't you give the message that we gave you? This is the job. There are people here who took contracts without understanding what these contracts were. The contract, you will just see it comes with abundance or fame or a platform or this or whatever is in the contract. But you don't understand the real contract. That's why you took it. But they needed you to take it. And now that you've taken it, they will protect you from it being destiny swapped out of your hands. They want you have the ability to enact this contract. When God calls you, you don't have a choice of yes or no. You thought you had an issue, you thought you had a problem, wait until spirits call you to service and you try to refuse. Your life will be so frustrated you won't even understand it. Nothing can work. All roads blocked. And they're patient. They know you don't want it. They'll sit there and they'll be patient, and the walls will come closing in on you every day, a little more, 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 until it starts just getting very loud. I understand your fear and your concern. Sometimes you have to see it done up close to understand what this is about. Leadership requires compassion. You gotta have compassion for other people or you lose people. And if you've ever had to hire people or bring people in, you understand how sensitive of a matter it is to hire people or bring people in, because you might be bringing in snakes onto your plane. You might be bringing in snakes into your business, your home, your environment without knowing. So leadership requires compassion or you lose people. You got to think for other people. You have to learn how to balance your approach. You can't just be too aggressive. You can't just be too lenient. You got to be somewhere in the middle, and you got to know when and where and how. Humility is a part of leadership. It takes strength to be humble. It takes strength to humble yourself and say, I'm going to be humble. I'm going to come to someone's level that I have to talk to because it's so important. The way God comes to our level. We are the children, we are human beings, and God comes to our level and tries to coax us, tries to say, you will enjoy this is for the best. Leadership requires humility and strength. And you have to learn or know when to stop. And sometimes you have to stop and you have to hold yourself back when you're stronger than other people in some ways. Because as the leader, you're the strong one. So you're the one that has to say, this person doesn't know better. It's like being a mother or father, like to a little baby. You can't exact strength on the baby, even though the baby's being rude. Or say you have a toddler that won't listen. You're not gonna beat the toddler. Like, you're not gonna do all of that. It's a kid. They just don't understand. So as a parent, you take compassion. You say, these people do not understand what they're doing here. Believe me, a time of peace sometimes is scarier than a time of fighting, only because of the surprises that could come your way. A time of peace is scarier than fighting. Feelings like compassion or forgiveness, they make you feel vulnerable. They feel terrifying. Because if you're dealing with hostile circumstances, even if you might want to take compassion or give forgiveness to someone, it makes you vulnerable because you don't know if this person's going to meet you halfway or if they're going to try to trap you. Self-restraint takes more energy than fighting because self-restraint requires a tugging or a pulling feeling, whereas fighting is just a release, or it's just a response. It is a release. You're releasing energy when you fight, but you're holding energy back when you restrain yourself. But leadership requires that self-restraint of just taking some time out to think things through before you rush head in. Life always presents us with the lessons, and the harder your lessons, the greater your role and the greater what God has in store for you. I can tell you I've gone through some very tough life lessons. You would think life lessons are only when you've done something bad, but I'm telling you, the lessons I've gone through have been depleting to go through and learn them. They've been so valuable, but they've come at such a price. And then you find yourself in a role that you weren't prepared for, that you found that you were trained for somehow, but without your knowledge. Leadership requires you to be well aware when your blessings are being shaken out of your hands by manipulating your reactions. And that could be through fear, through panic, anxiety, very deep grief, because there's some grief that will make you lash out, through love, or even seduction. And that seduction could even be money. But these are ways in which people use, some ways in which people use to manipulate reactions out of you. And you have to be careful because these reactions could lead to you losing your blessings. In everything, we think big picture. Even cautious, slow steps are better than not acknowledging what is clearly in front of you, facing your problems. You can't dig your head in the sand. You must look at what is happening. You gotta just make changes. You can't just decide like you're just gonna stick your head in it. You don't care, or you gotta make compromises. And you gotta get over things quickly to think clearly. Because holding on to grudges and all, it's like, it's almost like I would definitely say it weakens you for sure to hold on to grudges. But I would also say that it clouds your judgment. Sometimes you can do something, let's say in retaliation, but sometimes you don't need to retaliate. Sometimes you just need to give it to God. Sometimes you just need to figure out for yourself, like, I've done all I can do in this situation. Like, there's nothing more that I can do other than make the situation worse. So you gotta just look at it and say, it is what it is. And it's tough. And let me tell you, these are not my messages. So I have to learn to separate my behavior from the messages, only because I'm still mastering some of these things, but I don't think this up on my, like, these are not my messages. As a matter of fact, a lot of times, sometimes I get the messages, I have no idea what it's about or what it's talking about. Pray and just release. Release the control. Release all the emotions attached to it. You stay in your prayer. Stay away from people who are under judgment. You see, once people's judgment gets called, please stay away. No matter how much you know them, no matter how, like, because it's gonna drop regardless of whether or not you're there. The tower is gonna fall regardless of whether or not you're there. You gotta be cautious in this thing. You gotta be cautious with your energy. You gotta be purposeful about the actions that you take. Sometimes all that's happening here is you're being called to a position of leadership, and it is terrifying to you because you're like, wait, I gotta go where and do what and talk to who about what? God needs a voice. God needs an ambassador, a diplomat, someone to show up. So this is my message for today. I hope that whole video was not on mute. I pray to God it was not on mute, but this is my message for today. Thank you and have yourself a great day.